Hey everybody, welcome back to Portugal and Beyond. This is Jorik. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please subscribe if you like my content. Today's topic is a subscriber question that was asked by Christopher DuPont. And the question that he had asked was, how hard is it to learn Portuguese? And specifically like European Portuguese. So I would say it is a difficult language to learn, and that's also what we hear from locals that are Portuguese, and they have said that it is a difficult language when some of them have learned English or French or German or Italian. They said those languages were much easier to understand the sentence structure and the words. So that's coming from locals. I can say from our experience, it's been a challenge in a couple of ways. One, you just have to be diligent. It would be like any language. Every language can be difficult or easy depending on how hard you work at learning it. For us, most of the time that we've been in Portugal has been the pandemic. So getting out and talking to people, talking to locals, hearing from locals, understanding inflection, tone, maybe a regional dialect difference. We didn't get the opportunity because so much of that time was lockdown time, so didn't really have an opportunity to engage. One of the things that is unique to Portugal, and I think makes it a little more difficult to learn, is, for example, if you speak English or a version of English, whether it be British English, Canadian, US, Australian. If you come to Portugal, half of our television channels are actually in English, so they're English shows, which the subtitles are in Portuguese. I actually think that if all of the shows here were in Portuguese with English subtitles, you might pick up a little bit more, but we still get so much of our native language here and not enough of the Portuguese language. Thankfully, we have neighbors that are older that don't speak any English. They're in their 70s and 80s. And in communicating with them, we have to know some Portuguese or just a base level so that we can work together and see how things are going, how their day is going, if we can help them with anything. And what we found is some of the older, and I'll say retired generation, might know French, but not so much English, and that's okay. They don't need to know that. We need to know Portuguese, I think. When you go out to a restaurant, my recommendation is ask for the Portuguese menu and then order in Portuguese. That's one of the things we all got to eat, and it's one way that you can start learning some of the words anyway for food and beverage, and then you'll start picking up stuff on TV. There's lots of books that you can pick up to learn how to do it. There are tutors left and right. There are many places, many content providers on YouTube that do European Portuguese. I will say if you're looking at downloading an app or even using something like Rosetta Stone or something, oftentimes that's Brazilian Portuguese, not European Portuguese. So there's a little difference on some of the words and the pronunciation. Here it is, the hardest thing for me is the pronunciation and making sure that I try to get it right. I have a very, very, very basic level of Portuguese. And I sometimes will ask people that are Portuguese, how is my tone, how is my dialect? Am I kind of getting it right when I'm asking for something, when I'm speaking? Am I using the right sentence structure to do so? One kind of quick tip is if you're looking to come to Portugal, short-term basis or long-term, if you're moving, people in the north, so Coimbra, north, I'll say Porto, Braga, especially Porto and Braga area, they pronunciate more and they speak just a little bit slower than Lisbon, where we're at, in some places in the south. So oftentimes when we go up north, we can understand Portuguese better simply because they're enunciating and a little slower when they're speaking. In Lisbon, one of the things, even going to a class and listening to a teacher for several weeks, oftentimes this particular region, they don't open their mouth very much when they're speaking. So from an enunciation standpoint, it's almost like a ventriloquist to some degree. They're speaking and you can understand parts of it, but not all of it. And that's even true for some of the locals. We've been to places where a restaurant where there are 2 or 3 Portuguese with us, and then it's a Portuguese restaurant and they're having a conversation, but they're misunderstanding one another based upon some of the dialect and some of the regional tones. But it's more difficult than Spanish. I've learned Spanish, and although the sentence structure is the same, there's the feminine and masculine, and so much of it is even some of the words are the same words. For whatever reason, Spanish came easier, maybe because I learned it at an earlier age than trying to learn a new language in my 50s. That could have something to do with it. But I would recommend downloading some applications, some apps, so that every day you're learning new words. I would go, and this is going to sound weird, but I would go to a bookstore. FNAC, F-N-A-C, is kind of a regional bookstore in Portugal. It's electronics and books. Get some children's books, or go to any type of reused bookstore. Get children's books and start reading those. And because the language is more basic and simple, you will learn words, and you'll also learn tenses, which is kind of, to me, the toughest part, is learning all the verb tenses. And you'll do it no different than you learned your native language as a child. Learning from children's books, which is weird because we have a pile of them, and we've also picked up some children's workbooks to be able to learn the lingo, has been very helpful. So it is not an easy language to pick up compared to some other ones that are straightforward. Italian, I thought I'm learning Italian as well, and I think I'm farther ahead just in a few months of learning Italian than I am 2.5 years, well, more than that, 3.5 years of Portuguese. So it really depends on how open your mind is and how hard you study, because the older you get, it is harder to pick up a different language. So just keep at it. And if it's something that you want to do in moving to Portugal, I would recommend at least having a base level of Portuguese. You'll need it for repair people. Most of them are not going to speak English or any other language. You'll need that when you're outside Lisbon and Porto, when you're in smaller towns. Most of those towns are going to be Portuguese mainly, other than maybe some young people might know or speak English. We live in a residential part of Lisbon, so we're still within the city center, but it's residential, it's older, and no one here is speaking English in the apartments and the people that we meet on the streets. There are some of the restaurants that are either owned by expats or foreigners. They speak English and their staff does. But there are several restaurants that we go to in our neighborhood. There's no English at all. No English menus, no options. You have to either use your translate on your phone or pick up the language. So I would recommend, if you're going to move to a country, learn at least the basics. So then that way you can have some basic conversations, not just when you're ordering food, but when a plumber comes to fix your toilet, or you're looking to go to the store, the appliance store, and buy a new refrigerator. Being able to have some conversation in the native language is very important. So I hope that answered your question. It's not easy, it's doable. It's a little harder than many other languages, but I think learning some basic level of Portuguese is very important if you're going to live here. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your travels.